welcome to Scotch Talk. I'm Ever Cole. With Brian
It is
Klein.
misleading that there is no Scotch. I know everyone's saying that, and even though it's noon, I would be happy to have one.
We really wanted to bring Scotch.
I've heard all the excuses already.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, so Brian, tell me a little bit about your practice.
I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm an attorney there. I do litigation, which means I represent people in court or have disputes, or if they're under investigation or scrutiny by a U.S. regulator. Before I went into private practice, I was a federal prosecutor in the United States. I worked for the Department of Justice for a few years.
What attracted you to the crypto blockchain space?
I had left the Department of Justice, and this is in 2013, and was looking around. I've always been interested in tech.
Right.
And I actually saw the FinCEN, which is a U.S. regulatory body, and made some announcement about how they were going to regulate cryptocurrency. And I was like, oh, what's this? Like, if FinCEN's looking at this, must be something. And then I remember looking around, I did a Google search for like Bitcoin, and like 3 things popped up. You know, you used to be able to do like a news alert for Bitcoin, and literally it'd be like once a week you get some news item.
Just one thing.
Yeah, it'd be like one thing. I ended up speaking at this conference. It was like one of these, it was the first major conference, and I remember distinctly it was in San Jose, and it was like the Winklevi spoke, they were the keynotes, Satoshi Dice was the sponsor, and it was right next to this anime conference, and it was like sort of hard to tell the difference in the audience. You know, people had Guy Fawkes masks on, and
for both conferences.
Yes.
Did you ever walk into the wrong one?
No. But actually, they had stormtroopers in the other one. I was kind of intrigued. But there was a real genuine enthusiasm. The first person I ever met in Bitcoin was when I walked in. It was Brian Armstrong of Coinbase for the speakers dinner the night before. And there was a real energy and enthusiasm, and also a real sort of savviness about the tech. And at that time, I thought, wow, this is either going to be amazing, or it's going to blow up in an amazing fashion. I leaned way more on the side of amazing, and that's turned out to be the case, thankfully. That's a long answer. Lawyers give long answers.
I get it. No, that's cool. Blockchain has a bad rep, and fairly so. It's being used a lot for terrorist financing and money laundering.
See, I disagree with that premise.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think it has a bad rep. I think actually initially there was a lot of concern, and the extent it was known by people, it was something like, oh, they'd heard of the Silk Road, or government FinCEN is interested in stopping money laundering and terrorist financing. But I think the rep in the U.S. business community, I mean, I've had major companies contact me, and I just do litigation to get advice on things, and I have to refer them out, but I think it doesn't have a bad rep. I think to some people, the traditional financial communities or more traditionalists, you know, they don't understand it, so therefore they don't like it. I mean, I think it's a classic sort of reaction. There are, of course, concerns. You know, people do misuse Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, but you know, the dominant form of illegal transactions in the world is the U.S. cash, and no one says let's stop the U.S. dollar. So I think those concerns are overblown, especially when you weigh them against the benefits. And I think as these technologies evolve, you know, just like when credit cards first came out, there was probably more fraud and a lot more problems. But then
the technology wasn't refined; it wasn't quite there.
People learned where the problems were, and they now, like, you know, the fraud has been minimized and the concerns have been minimized.
Okay, so you see that happening to blockchain technology now?
Yeah, we're in the super early days.
From a lawyer's perspective, how do you see this technology and the regulation around it, basically the entire ecosystem changing in the next 10 years?
You know, it's an evolving, innovative technology. And so if you look at it 3 years ago to today, they're very different. There wasn't the ICO issue. There wasn't all these other things. So I think, you know, regulators, in my opinion, I lean on the libertarian side of things. Regulators should, their default should be not to regulate. If they do, they should do it cautiously and make sure that they're not having unintended bad consequences. So I think regulators are getting their arms around it. I think you'll see more regulation. Hopefully it will be smart and minimal regulation, but that's happening.
Could you get me up to date on some of the regulations around ICOs in the US?
In the US, sure. The SEC would say it hasn't adopted any special new regulations. What they would say is we have traditional tests, we have traditional rules, and those rules apply, and you should look to those rules for your answers to your questions. They issued the Dow report last year, summertime around this time, and that was sort of a report that was meant to be a guide or an advisory for people. I think the SEC, I think most people would like the SEC to issue more guidance, more clear guidance, more simple, clear guidance. I think a lot of my clients or a lot of people I meet in the industry would appreciate that. I think because the US is the dominant global regulator, a lot of countries, including Canada to some extent, look to what the US is doing, or the US is the one who bothers to really enforce things beyond its, territory.
Yeah.
A lot of regulators and law enforcement say, hey, we have worldwide jurisdiction, basically. Like, if it somehow affects the US, we have a right to come and get you.
Yeah.
So I think things will be developing. Hopefully they'll be developing in a positive manner.